weeks for weeks after weeks, and the girl never returned to the floor. We've seen her turn up the ratings in golf. We've seen her turn up the ratings in basketball and the NFL, and all of these things transcend the sport like we have never, ever, ever seen before.
Women's basketball undeniably has exciting young talent, and that part of the conversation is absolutely true. But what's also true, what the numbers are loudly screaming right now, is that without Caitlin Clark actively on the floor, the entire ecosystem starts to collapse. This isn't a slow, gradual dip in interest. It's a free fall that's visible across every level of the sport, from college arenas to professional leagues, and even to brand new ventures that were supposed to revolutionize the game. The drop-off is immediate, measurable, and impossible to ignore.
Head coach, and this shows you that people aren't really interested anymore. UCLA women's basketball coach. Now, UCLA is one of the best teams in the country, a potential national championship winner. UCLA women's basketball coach Corey Close said that I from Los Angeles, not in Columbus, was the only media member to talk with her after UCLA's win in Ohio State. Close said she didn't mind if I printed her response, so here it is in full. The coach said, honestly, if I'm being really blunt with you, the energy in the building was great, but having no media here at all for either team, or either no AP, no nothing, says a lot.
This isn't hyperbole. It's coming directly from a Division I head coach. UCLA's Corey Close publicly called out the complete absence of media coverage at a ranked matchup, and the details make it even more alarming. UCLA versus Ohio State, both teams ranked. The only double-ranked women's college basketball game in the entire country that day, and not a single media member showed up. Not one reporter. Not one beat writer, not one local journalist, nobody. Close didn't say this in passing either. She openly stated she didn't mind if it was printed because she wanted people to understand just how dire the situation has become. This was January 2025 conference play, featuring two legitimate national championship contenders, yet the media treated it as if it didn't exist. Just 1 year earlier, when Caitlin Clark was still at Iowa, games like this would have been packed with press rows, with reporters competing for credentials. Now, there's nothing but silence.
Creator perspective. When you put up unrivaled, ain't nobody watching. Nobody's checking for it. I'm telling you, I see it on all the content creators' side that people are not showing real interest in unrivaled. Now, maybe once the games start, some things will pick up, but people aren't showing an interest in watching unrivaled content. Unrivaled's promo, I don't know, they did way more promo last year, and it just doesn't seem like the actual interest from the people is there to watch.
And it's not just college basketball feeling the impact. Unrivaled, the 3-on-3 league that was supposed to change everything, is facing the same reality. It launched last year with massive fanfare, big names, serious financial backing, and a revolutionary concept designed to keep WNBA stars engaged during off-season while giving them real equity in a league they could actually own. The promotional push was everywhere. If you followed women's basketball, you couldn't escape it. This year, that momentum has fallen off a cliff. Content creators who cover the sport are all reporting the same thing. Nobody is clicking, nobody is engaging, and the interest just isn't there. And here's the critical detail that can't be ignored. Caitlin Clark isn't participating in Unrivaled. That absence is glaring, because what the league desperately needs right now is exactly what Clark brings. Eyeballs and casual fans who tune in specifically to watch her play. Without her, Unrivaled is struggling to generate the buzz it needs to sustain Real momentum.
Head coach saying that no media is showing up to cover the games anymore. Without Caitlin Clark, women's basketball is dying, bro. If I see change, I will come out and say, hey, I was wrong. I'll say that. I don't have too much pride for that. But the way it's going now, nobody's interested. This here is on Awful Announcing. Caitlin Clark has the most to lose from a WNBA lockout. Here it says, will there be a WNBA season? While nothing is certain, fans...
Now let's talk about the WNBA itself, because this is where things get truly complicated. The league is currently in the middle of collective bargaining agreement negotiations, and the Players Association has already authorized its executive committee to call for a strike if talks break down. That created a very real possibility that the 2026 WNBA season doesn't happen at all. Not delayed, but canceled outright. Consider what that would mean for Caitlin Clark specifically. She missed most of the 2025 season due to multiple injuries. And if the 2026 season is wiped out by a lockout, that's a year and a half without competitive basketball. A year and a half where the momentum she built, the casual fans she attracted, and the mainstream attention she generated all sit dormant. And momentum in sports doesn't pause. It evaporates. As the article makes clear, everyone loses in a lockout scenario. Team owners lose game revenue at the exact moment when ticket demand has never been higher. Players lose exposure, just as new sponsors are finally paying attention to the league. Fans lose access to competitive basketball. But Caitlin Clark arguably loses the most because her brand, her cultural relevance, and her ability to transcend the sport all depend on visibility, on playing, competing, and doing the things that made her a phenomenon in the first place.
All these awesome players that we like, Olivia Miles at TCU, Hannah Hidalgo at Notre Dame, Tanaya Latson at South Carolina. UConn is back dominant. Ava Hayden and Chit Chat and Hannah Stokey at Iowa. None of these teams are moving the needle. When you create content about these things, people aren't that interested. I'm just keeping it real. Even from a fan perspective, it doesn't seem like people are that interested in these teams, in these players.
And this is where the college basketball situation becomes even more revealing, because it's not as if the talent suddenly disappeared. Hannah Hidalgo is at Notre Dame putting up incredible numbers. Juju Watkins was dominating at USC. Before injury, Olivia Miles is back at Notre Dame. Paige Buchers is healthy again at UConn. Kiki Iriffin transferred to USC. Anissa Morrow is at LSU. These are legitimately elite players, future WNBA stars, exactly the kind of talent that should be driving interest and viewership, yet they aren't. The reason is uncomfortable but undeniable. A significant portion of the audience that showed up for Caitlin Clark wasn't there for women's basketball as a concept. They were there for her specifically. Some of that came from her playing style, the deep threes, the vision, the competitive fire. Some of it was her personality and relatability. Some of it was a narrative of record-breaking and challenging long-standing conventions. But whatever the mix, it was unique to her. And when she left, that audience left with her. You can see it clearly in the content creation space. Videos about Hidalgo, Buchers, or any of these other stars generate only a fraction of the engagement that Caitlin Clark content did. The algorithm doesn't lie. The view counts don't lie. The click-through rates don't lie. People simply aren't watching.
And a bunch of bums and cupcakes, and I love Malaysia Fuwiley. She ain't played against a legit player yet. They're not playing anybody. So maybe things for women's college basketball will pick up once conference play starts. The injury to Juju Watkins definitely did not help. But I also feel like a lot of people were clinging on to Juju Watkins. Why? Because they wanted to say and feel she's better than Caitlin Clark. It still was tied into Caitlin Clark. And now that that is removed, nobody's really checked.
LSU is ranked in the top 5 nationally right now. And they have Flau'jae Johnson, an incredibly talented guard with NBA-level athleticism. Yet they're running through cupcake schedules, blowout after blowout against overmatched opponents. Even when they do play competitive games, the viewership just isn't there. The same is true for UConn. They're back to their usual dominance, crushing everyone in their path, but dominance without a compelling rival, without someone like Caitlin Clark pushing them, without that built-in narrative tension. Simply isn't compelling television for casual fans. The hardcore women's basketball community will always show up. The fans who love the sport for its fundamentals, team play, and the development of young talent are still watching. But that audience was never large enough to sustain the kind of growth the sport experienced during Clark's final college season. The explosion in ratings, the sold-out arenas, the mainstream media attention. That level of growth required something more. It required a transcendent star, and right now, women's basketball doesn't have one actively playing.
The fans, we need Caitlin Clark playing in games. We need competitive hoops. That's what we need right now. Here it says, all of them would lose something, but no one would lose as much as Caitlin Clark. I will admit that I do not understand what has made Clark the singular force muscling the WNBA into top culture discussions. How does anyone like shoot it from the logo? Basketball is boring. It has made every level of both men's and women's. Words, drive to the bucket, get put on your ass like an adult, or get off my TV screen. It says, what I think doesn't matter, though. I'm not a fan of Steph Curry either, but just like Curry, Caitlin Clark has become famous for being able to sink a shot from anywhere and parlay that fame into her own brand. Forget Curry. Nike clearly sees Jordan's potential in the CC brand. That was made clear by the Christmas Day ad, which featured a ton of star cameos and a pretty sick logo. Caitlin Clark is not the best player in the WNBA. I disagree. That's clearly Asia Wilson. I disagree. But Caitlin Clark is the biggest brand in basketball right now. The WNBA is full of stars, but her presence has pushed the league's growth into overdrive. What happens to that brand if she goes a year and a half without being on the court? Remember that Clark missed most of the 2025 season with multiple groin injuries. All right, so this is just laying out for you that, Caitlin Clark has more to lose than anybody from not playing in the 2026 season, and the game needs her. Man. So at the end of the day, it is me looking at the landscape and what's going on. I can clearly see that the game is dying out. The interest in it, in terms of people wanting to watch, media, the viewership on YouTube, all of that stuff is tanking in left field without Caitlin Clark. And that is just as real as it gets, man. Get down in the comments and let me know what you think.
Let's synthesize what's happening, because this isn't just about one player. It's about what happens when a sport becomes overly dependent on a single draw, and that draw is suddenly removed. The media absence at the UCLA-Ohio State game isn't an isolated incident. It reflects a broader reality. Without Caitlin Clark in the mix, women's college basketball has reverted to its pre-Clark media footprint. Minimal coverage, regional at best, with national outlets moving on and beat reporters no longer traveling to games. The infrastructure that briefly existed to cover these teams comprehensively has largely evaporated. This is brutal for players like Hannah Hidalgo and Kiki Iriafen, who are performing at elite levels yet can't generate the kind of automatic attention Clark commanded. The situation with Unrivaled is particularly telling. Despite star power, Brianna Stewart and Nafiza Collier founding the league, Angel Reese and Eriko Gunbo playing. The league struggles because those names resonate primarily within the WNBA community, a much smaller circle than mainstream American sports audiences. Clark crossed over into that second category, appearing on NFL broadcasts and PGA Tour events, becoming a cultural figure beyond basketball. Unrivaled needed that level of crossover appeal to attract casual viewers, and without her, it's struggling to break through the noise. The potential WNBA lockout compound the problem. The league just had its best season ever in attendance, viewership, and mainstream attention, largely fueled by Clark's rookie campaign. Even though she played only 13 games before injuries sidelined her, the buzz around her, the debates, the controversy, the records, drove unprecedented interest, bringing casual fans to arenas and tickets to the Indiana Fever. If the 2026 season is canceled, that momentum dies, because casual sports fans won't wait a year and a half. They'll move on. When the league returns, it will have to rebuild from scratch in attracting that casual audience. The hardcore fans will return, but those drawn specifically for Clark may not. And here's the uncomfortable truth. Clark isn't the best player in the WNBA. Aya Wilson won MVP and led her team to a championship. She is dominant and respected, but dominance and cultural relevance aren't the same. Wilson doesn't move the needle for casual fans the way Clark does. Star power and talent don't always align. Right now, the league's biggest draw is sidelined, and the timing couldn't be worse. Nike clearly understands Clark's value. The Christmas Day commercial featuring her signature logo and celebrity cameos signals a bet on her brand achieving Jordan-level cultural penetration, at least in terms of visibility. But that only works if she's playing. Comparisons to Steph Curry are apt. Curry transformed basketball by making the deep three central to offensive strategy, and Clark is doing something similar for women's basketball, making it must-watch for casual viewers. But Curry's impact required sustained excellence on the court over many seasons. Clark hasn't had that opportunity yet. One abbreviated rookie season isn't enough to cement her legacy. She needs time, games, and visibility. In short, women's basketball is struggling without Caitlin Clark. Not literally dying, but losing the growth, momentum, and mainstream relevance it briefly achieved. You can see it in empty press rows at ranked college games, in declining engagement with unrivaled content, and in the anxiety surrounding a potential WNBA lockout. The sport needs Clark playing competitive basketball at the highest level, doing the things that made her must-watch television. Without her on the court, casual audiences have checked out, the media has moved on, and the window to build on last year's momentum is closing fast. The critical question now: if the WNBA loses the 2026 season to a lockout and Clark goes a year and a half without competitive basketball, can the sport recover that momentum when she returns, or will casual fans have moved on permanently, leaving women's basketball back where it was before her arrival? Based on what we're seeing across every level of the sport, the answer should terrify anyone who cares about its future.